Chat GPT, please give me an opening line for a podcast about Doctor Who. Oh, wait a minute. That's not Chat GPT. It's Chad GPT. This is episode 535 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 12th of April, 2025, and featuring The Robot Revolution, written by Russell T. Davies, and starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Verada Sithu as Belinda Chandra. I am Bill Sylvia, the One in Black, and with me are Alex Fireheart.
Hello.
And Aaron Romeo Moon Burke. How's everyone doing today?
Not too bad. I mean, thankfully I didn't, unlike last weekend, I didn't end up having a nosebleed after working.
Oh, yeah.
It just ended up being, like, I had other problems, which I won't go into because it's a bit TMI, but, thankfully, not that. I mean, maybe because it sort of rained while I was working, that kind of helped, but it does make me think that it's probably the meds I was taking that brought that nosebleed on.
Do they affect your blood pressure? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I mean, the funny thing is like
Gotcha.
I didn't think they were gonna work anyway because I was taking Ritalin, and like I'm 34.
What year is
Probably,
this?
yeah, probably a bit old. Yeah, like I mean, I don't know how many options there are in Australia anyway for that, because I was only given like two options effectively. Like
okay.
maybe there'd be other things, but it's more like, okay, these are the most likely to do something. So like, but that being said, because of the nosebleeds, when I brought that up with my with the psychiatrist I'm seeing for these like diagnoses, when I told him that the last time we met, which was last week, like basically a few days ago, he was like, okay, given that's an possible issue, and the other meds could potentially also do that, I need you to go see a GP and have them clear you so I can get you to try these other meds. Because if they're like, okay,
I'm guessing the other meds are also a stimulant, possibly Adderall. And yeah, I could see that being an issue.
Because yeah, it's just like
the blood will flow.
Yeah.
Right. My friend, when they got their diagnosis, got some non-stimulant medication for ADHD, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for, because like right now my issue is I self-medicate with caffeine, but that means like if I'm doing something that requires focus at 2 a.m. and then I try to get to sleep at 3 a.m., there's a very good chance I'm not falling asleep until sunrise.
Oh yeah, like I was flatly told that like while I was trying Ritalin, he was like, you can't take this after 4 p.m. Like, whatever dosage you're having, you have to have before then, because otherwise it will fuck up your sleep. And I think it was like even the other one that he has in mind is like, you're probably gonna have to take that a bit earlier. And I think the other one is probably going to be more of a like one a day thing, because like with Ritalin I was having to work my way up gradually. Because it's funny, because like when I started and took a half tablet, I think that morning I was very like sluggish for a bit and was like able to focus like maybe a little better, and then nothing after that, aside from these nosebleeds. So I was like, okay, maybe this is not what the thing is. Honestly, the funny thing is, if I had very specific work environments and lived on my own, I wouldn't need meds as far as I'm concerned. Or at least I wouldn't need like meds as badly. for ADHD. Like, because a lot of it, and it's part of why I'm now going to be going through the process of, we've like, basically, I think he was like, okay, let's focus on ADHD first. And now that I've been diagnosed with that, like, moving forward, it's going to be like figuring out if, like, or at least officially knowing whether I'm autistic or not, which I think I am, but, you know, I'm not going to say that I am when a professional hasn't said one way or the other. But he's like, it's pretty likely, but we're going to, like, you know, take this seriously and explore it properly.
Most adults that usually relies on a self-diagnosis to start with anyway.
Yeah.
Although I was hoping that when I get assessed, I can do both at the same time. But actually, that's a good segue because since, of course, that involves money, a new barrier has arrived. I'm assuming this is because of the stock market shenanigans and bullshit von Trumperknuckle fucking with global trade. As I was checking into my hotel on Wednesday night, all of a sudden my credit card limit dropped by $700, which is the exact amount that I needed to put on hold for the hotel. And slightly, you know, I had made sure I had that much available. So I couldn't just say, well, I'm not paying you until I call my bank. So I ended up having to dip into my savings for an extra $700 in order to, you know, have a place to sleep. They've reversed it partially. They put 200 of it back. So I'm hoping that that was a very temporary thing and that it eventually goes back to the limit it was. But either way, like, I'm planning to call them up like, yo, I just spent half of next month's rent money on, or I mean, technically it was money saved up for rent in the summer, but they don't need to know that. Half a month's rent money because of you changing things and emailing me about it after the fact instead of before it happened. So can I please get, you know, some leeway on my next payment or two? Like, if I paid an extra $700, like, that's the equivalent of about 10 minimum payments. Like, I'd appreciate some leeway. How are you, Aaron? Anything recent?
I'm doing okay. Visiting my dad up here in Two Rivers, Manitowoc County, right on Lake Michigan. So, I'm visiting, and no one bothered to tell me that the highway was being worked on. That it was being resurfaced. So it's just like I keep getting these notifications from Google Maps that the road is closed. I'm like, how am I supposed to get to my
we got detours and shit. Okay.
Yeah, there's detours and stuff, and you can drive on it still. It's just there's no through traffic allowed. But if you live here, like, you're allowed to drive through, I guess, you know.
I was gonna say you live in a major city in a state that gets snow. I would assume that you're used to 365 days a year of road work, but detours are a different story.
Yeah, and there's, unlike Madison, there aren't a lot of routes to get to my parents' place. There's literally just the highway outside here, and then there's the Lake Michigan is on the other side of the highway.
Got you. So you have to get a boat.
Yeah. Let me just park the boat out front here, and then I'll cross the half-finished highway. But yeah, it's been interesting. Dad's doing okay. He's in at-home hospice. The nurses are visiting and dropping off medication and stuff. My uncle's going to be visiting. We're taking care of legal stuff. My uncle's visiting. He's power of attorney, so he's going to be going through a lot of other stuff too. And my brother's helping out a lot. He does a lot for my parents, or did a lot for my parents and stuff. My mom passed away in November, of course, so just kind of getting the house cleaned up and everything, trying to help my dad
it seems
out.
like it's just one thing after another for you right now.
Yeah, first ran, then my mom, and then I don't know when my dad. My dad seems to think he'll be around for a while, so he is able to. He's still up and walking around. He is kind of attached to oxygen now, though, which he's not very happy with. So, and that. So I got him a bunch of cat supplies today and cat litter, cat food, and all that stuff. So we've got 4 cats and a dog.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, everything seems to be going pretty well up here. And that ate out with my brother and my dad, and had breakfast earlier today at Lighthouse's
Do we not do
restaurant.
phrasing anymore?
Hmm.
I said, do we not do phrasing anymore?
I don't know, what did I say that was phrasing?
Ate out with your brother and your dad?
Oh God. No. I ate dinner with my brother and dad. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise things are going pretty well here as far as I can tell. So just need to clean up. We're thinking of, I don't know, maybe turning the house into an Airbnb and stuff later on. So, but that will require a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right. Alrighty. Tonight's show will most likely be a short one, which is probably good given how late we're starting and the fact that I'm tired from my trip, over which I got very poor sleep. But we've got a few birthdays. We do not have news because all the promo news for the Robot Revolution is outdated and the viewing figures aren't in yet, and there's no other news. The benefits of doing 2 weeks back to back. I do have a brief channel update, which I don't know how much of it's been talked about before at this point. And we have our episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings. So to start with the channel update, let's see. So our 2 podcasts ago was only on YouTube because of the Amazon boycott. This most recent one, I just downloaded it to my computer. We had the issue of we cannot make Twitch highlights, so we can't do any trimming on Twitch and then export because they changed their policy of that whole maximum 100 hours of highlights per channel, which means I need to slowly delete 700 hours of backlog before we can save highlights.
Yeah.
And I can't download like a bunch at a time. If delete a bunch at a time. If I try to delete too many at once, and just get an error message. So I got to delete them in like batches of 5 episodes, which is 10 hours. So basically 70 small batches at a time. So I have the most recent podcast saved to my computer. Maybe I'll just edit it in Vegas and upload it straight to YouTube from there. But either way, this time next week, the automatic delete will have gone through and it'll have deleted all except for 100 podcasts. So maybe I'll just let it do the automatic delete instead of spending a day slowly deleting things. And then I'll just delete enough that we can, work freely for the rest of the year.
I understand
That is it. How much backlog do you have?
2,200 hours. So, and most of it is not on YouTube, and it was taking forever to export to YouTube, and I was worried that the YouTube downloads would not be very good quality because they download at 1.4 gigabytes total, and then the Twitch downloads are like 4 gigabytes total. So I was able to get a hold of someone on the Twitch Reddit Discord stuff. So they actually pointed me towards a batch downloader for Twitch.
Oh.
So which I think I posted. Yeah, I think I posted that in our.
I think you mentioned that. But I'm not downloading 700 hours worth of podcasts onto my computer. It's already
it cost me about 6 terabytes.
Oof.
So I had to buy a few SSDs.
All right, on to the birthdays.
Yep.
Alex, are you in a setup to cover birthdays?
Yeah.
Cool.
So first on the 6th of April, we have Teddy Sears, who was the blue-eyed man in Torchwood Miracle Day. Turned 48. On the also on the 6th, we have Mark Strickson, who was Vizsla Turlo from 83 to 84, plus work for Big Finish. Turned 66. Insert your own Revenge of the Sith joke here. And on the 9th of April, we have Neve McIntosh, who played Madame Vastra and other Silurians from Series 5 through Series 8 and beyond, plus work for Big Finish. Turned 53.
I don't remember why I put the plus in, or did I put the plus in there? I don't know. Did she appear in Doctor Who after Series 8?
I feel like she possibly has, or at the very least, probably. I mean, at the very least, that wasn't like. I feel like she might have, by virtue of like there being like 2 series after that for Moffat, so she probably showed up at least once.
Like a cameo, yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
yeah, happy birthday to Teddy, Mark, and Neve.
Yep. No episode news, not even Big Finish news. Which brings us. Anybody have any geek talk that we didn't mention? I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I watched at least one season of Marvel What If, but I'm not organized. My brain is not organized or alert enough to try to summarize it or like give a review of it.
Yeah, like the only stuff I've done, like I definitely haven't watched anything new. I don't think I've finished anything, and I feel like anything I had probably wouldn't be like enough that I'd bother. Oh, maybe, but it'd be a while because I haven't like finished the main stuff of it yet.
I haven't really watched a lot of geek stuff. I started watching season 3 of Reacher, I think, and I have bought a annual subscription to Crunchyroll, so I'll be applying that here when I get home. So, because I'm planning on continuing my watch through the Dragon Ball universe.
Ah, yeah. That reminds me, I still need to keep up with Daima because I like I've seen the first couple, but I've like kind of fallen off that because I'm trying to get through Critical Role Campaign 3 as quickly as I can.
I think
I've got like 20, 30 something episodes left.
It might be too late for it to matter, but I think at least a good chunk, if not all, of the Dragon Ball shows are on Hulu now. I'm pretty sure at least Daima and OG Dragon Ball are.
Yeah, because like they don't move them really over
And
though.
Super.
Crunchyroll still maintains them and everything. They just put them up on Hulu as well.
Yeah,
as far as I know,
like,
Hulu is that.
in terms of like not needing to get a whole extra subscription for just that, but.
Oh no, I do Crunchyroll for all kinds of other stuff. It's really, even before they merged with Funimation, they were kind of the better pick between the two for streaming anime. And that, so, and High Dive I kind of sub to every once in a while when there's something on there I want to see. So.
All right. So then next is the summary, and I believe Alex has notes to take a summary.
Yep.
Let me get my stopwatch ready. That is the clock app. All right, ready for countdown?
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, we open on a flashback to 2008 where Belinda Chandra is gifted a certificate or a diploma that says she owns a star in the sky named after her by her boyfriend at the time, Alan, who was an awkward loser. We then jump back to 2025 where Belinda is working as a nurse and the doctor is seemingly trying to find her, knocking the power out in the hospital she works at by accident. After Belinda gets home, she's kidnapped by alien robots, claiming she's the queen of a planet named after her, and after the star she owns. Just as the doctor gets there, with Mrs. Flood having a cameo and telling us that we didn't see her. As the doctor chases after Belinda in the TARDIS, there's a weird time anomaly before Belinda finally arrives at the planet. The robots tell her that she's to be married to the AI generator, which is the actual ruler of the planet, before the Doctor and some rebels who've infiltrated this place manage to help Belinda escape, with most of them dying as the result, including a woman named Sasha55, who the Doctor mourns as she was clearly potential companion material. Back at the rebel base, Belinda gets to use some of her medical know-how to help out, with the Doctor eventually revealing that the diploma certificate that the AI generator showed that it had in its possession is the exact same one that the robots brought with them from Belinda's place, meaning that they have two of the exact same object existing simultaneously in the same time period. The Doctor also reveals he's been on the planet for 6 months due to the time distortion, and the robots have his TARDIS. One of the rebels named Manny gives Belinda a hard time, blaming her for everything that's happened, which Belinda takes to heart and ultimately turns a little cleaning robot back on that the Doctor had turned off so the robots would be able to track her and take her to the AI generator, which she agrees to so long as the robots don't kill the remaining rebels. As it turns out, when brought before the AI generator, it is in fact the Al generator, aka Belinda's ex Alan, who due to the time distortion was brought to the planet before her, after she called out that they should be going after him instead, and has gone mad with power, becoming more machine now than man. After Belinda stands up to him, the Doctor slips her the diploma via the cleaning bot, and Belinda goes up to Alan. She holds out the diploma to touch the one he's holding, which starts a chain reaction that could have been catastrophic, with the Doctor not there to effectively absorb some of the impact, or the entire impact on her end, and pull Belinda away. With what was left of Alan after that being mopped up by the cleaning robot. The planet now seemingly heading towards peace as the robots aren't being controlled by Alan anymore. The Doctor takes Belinda into the TARDIS and attempts quite a few times to take her home, only to continuously fail, seemingly locked out of returning to the exact date needed. We then end on a shot of the TARDIS dematerializing as various bits of debris come into view, including what seemed to be the Eiffel Tower and part of the Statue of Liberty, some pyramid stuff, among other things. The end.
All right, got 3 minutes and just under 44 seconds on my end.
In hindsight, when I finished writing, I was like, it's probably a bit long, but there is decent enough stuff to mention.
Yeah. So any non-evaluative topics we want to talk about before we go into the review, or go straight in?
I don't think I
I will say there was a solid at least 10 minutes that I thought this was a Shadow Cyberman episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially with them like showing like the process of what's gonna happen to Belinda.
Right. Yeah, from there, and then there's the you will no longer feel anger and pain. All is peace and serenity. And I was like, oh, so this is a cyber controller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they even mentioned conversion.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
And I guess another thing, unless this is something that anybody has strong positive or negative feelings about, we got Mrs. Flood cameo.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, breaking the fourth wall, and then this time running away so the doctor doesn't see her there. So, interesting, but we don't know where it's going yet.
Yeah. Although, given that this is like the last season of the current deal, I would assume that this will be wrapped up this season instead of trying to hold it off for the next one.
Yeah, it seemed RTD's original plan was for a 2-season arc. I would expect him. I mean, I don't know. RTD didn't typically leave a lot of multi-season breadcrumbs, so
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't have any breadcrumbs in this one for next season. Like if I know Moffat definitely would have had like 5 unresolved plot threads to pick up. One of next season, but RTD, at least in the original era, didn't typically do that. All right, so let's go into what we like about the episode, starting with Alex.
Yeah, we're pretty much going to go with something that we technically could have just covered, but I'm just going to cover now because even though I don't know if it's going to be either of yours, but I'm just going to say Belinda. Like, I was so worried.
We can do an Elements of Doctor Who for a new companion, but
yeah. Yeah, it was the thing of like I remember being really worried, especially after we had the working class blonde girl, and now we have the POC who works in the in the medical field. It's like, oh, are we just doing Martha again? And then thank God we're not. Belinda
I thought we were expecting Clara again.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, thankfully, yeah, we don't get the Impossible Girl thing either with her, thankfully. Because a bit that I didn't bother to bring up in the summary is that they kind of just be like, oh, I met your X amount descendant kind of a thing, which is a nice way to tie that back in. But yeah, is like a very interesting character. Doesn't put up with the Doctor's shit, which is always nice. But and it never comes off as annoying, or it doesn't come off as her just being bossy. It's just that she doesn't want to put up with his shit more than anything. Which I feel like there have been companions that get talked about where it's like, oh, what the hell, this character's annoying. I feel like Tegan has that. And this is technically another, hey, just get me home companion, but we're doing a different thing with it. But
and it seems like next episode is not going to be 40 minutes straight of why are you not getting me home yet.
Yeah. Yeah, thankfully we've got a series hook to be like, well, I'm trying, but I can't. So, oh well. Yeah, just this actress has got my hopes way up for the rest of this. So, hopefully they don't screw her up in the next 7 episodes.
All right, Aaron, what did you like?
I like kind of the twists that a lot of this episode had to it. There's a lot of red herrings here. For example, the whole Belinda Martha thing. You think she's going to be like Martha, and she's not. You think she might be like Clara, and she's not. We have the villain here. At first, you think they say it's the AI generator, so it's got to have something to do with the threat of AI, right? But no, it's all about like toxic masculinity and incels and stuff like that. You have Sasha who is like, oh, you're gonna take me into space after you take her home, and then Sasha dies, and she's not the companion. We knew that Belinda was going to be companion, but that was kind of
Right.
spoiled here. But like, there was kind of almost a feeling that maybe Sasha could take along for an adventure or two before she goes home. Maybe a surprise. Hey, you didn't know that she was going to be companion too. So, but then, like I said, she dies. Spoiler alert. Yeah, I just there was a lot of stuff here that you think something's going to happen and it doesn't. So, and that kind of kept me on my toes a bit. So, definitely on the second watch, even it was a lot of fun to see all these little twists and turns too. So, including the Cyberman, you think it's going to be a Cyberman and it's not. So,
Right. Okay, makes sense.
yep.
So I'm gonna, I think, elaborate on one of the things you mentioned. I think what I like about this episode is that they really kind of lean into like the AI. You're like, oh, they're very specifically saying AI. This is going to be about Chat GPT, and it's like, no, actually, the problem with AI is the people behind it, and it's like, yes, I mean, there are myriad problems with AI, and so much of it is the way corporations are using them, the way they're conducted, and everything, not the actual technology. I even have research I'm doing that uses similar sort of coding to an AI model, but it's not done by just stealing a bunch of shit from people. Um, so yes, the people are the real problem behind AI is a really great uh, setup and payoff within this episode. So I really like that part. All right, now for what we dislike, Alex.
Interestingly enough, I'm like having a hard time thinking of stuff that isn't really nitpicky. Um, I guess in a way, and like this is Doctor Who, so this kind of continuity stuff happens a lot. But the whole like, oh, these two things can't exist simultaneously because if they touch, they'll go kablooey, is like a recurring aspect of this. But then you think back, it's like, wow, so the Doctor should have exploded like a billion times by now with all the crossovers. Like, because like
So
there are some
I
that
think
have
it is this.
shook hands. So
So I think it is established in the mythology that like part of Time Lord biology is that he's sort of protected from it unless it's the same incarnation of himself, or it's or their same incarnation of themselves. So like if we had two Shootigatwas that had crossed their own timeline touching each other, that would be a problem. But like Shootigatwa, Matt Smith, and Jodie Whittaker and Peter Capaldi all in a big group hug would not be a problem.
That makes sense.
Until one of them smacked the others.
Because in hindsight, I guess they probably have been consistent with that, because there have been a few Doctors effectively meeting the same incarnation, but I don't think they've ever touched.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever explicitly said, or if that's just something that like a fan or a novelization kind of incorporated into things.
Because
At this point, Doctor Who is old enough that unless you read all the novelizations, it's hard to tell the difference between fanon and novelizations.
Because I definitely know that, like, multi-Doctor stories in general always posited, like, the first one at least, 3 Doctors was always like, wait, how are we existing in the same space at the same time? That should, like, fuck shit up. But it's like, nah, they've, you know, done some Time Lord stuff, and that's letting us do this. But yeah, like
because the TARDIS is supposed to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Most of what I have is like it shows that like how solid this is. That like the most I can think of is just nitpicky stuff.
Alrighty then, Aaron, what did you dislike about the episode?
I kind of disliked all the kind of the different time skips and stuff that were mentioned. They've got a bunch of stuff going on all at once. It does get better. It gets easier for me to, or it got easier for me to understand on the second watch. But like there's like maybe a few time skips or time kind of tiny whiny things going on that the Doctor has to deal with. But this kind of felt a little bit overwhelming because you got the foundation of the society thousands of years ago, the friendship between the robots and the humans hundreds of years ago. You got the Doctor stranded on the planet for 6 months. Belinda's received the Star Diploma 17 years ago. And then 17 years in the future, we go to, and then you've got the robots going back in time to steal the diploma or something, or the diploma gets shunted back in time to like the foundation of the world, and then you've got the robot conquest, you've got the revolution 10 years ago that took place over the span of one night, and then it kind of became a bit convoluted. I'm like, okay, what's going on with this timeline here? And so, and like, I'm still a little bit confused over the sequence of events because it's just so out of order. I guess it's an interesting illustration of how the Doctor has to kind of think around this kind of things as a Time Lord, you know. So it might feel confusing for me as a viewer, but like the writers, I trust that the writers and are writing that the Doctor knows logically how to work through all this stuff. But yeah, it was just a little confusing and frustrating on the first watch.
That's fair, and I think, at least based on the way the episode ended, I think part of that is going to be a season finale stuff.
Yeah, most likely.
What we have so far is in terms of what set things off seems to be Belinda said, "Oh, you should go after Alan," and then either completely coincidentally some sort of time bomb went off that caused people to get split up into different time zones, or the robots for some reason went back in time with really like shitty time travel technology that fucked everything up. But there was really no reason to go back in time, so that would be a little illogical. So in terms of sequence of events, we have at that point the robots go back in time 10 years, get Alan, and then go back to their planet, which is what causes the whole revolution and everything. We still don't. The Doctor gets shunted back 6 months, goes where he was heading, and then realizes that he's in the wrong time zone. And then it seems like the whole thing with the certificate, well, for one, it can't happen now, of course, because the certificate blew up. But we don't know when that was supposed to have happened, other than sometime in Belinda's future, because it had to have happened after this episode, and then the certificate goes back thousands of years. So we don't know how that would have happened.
Yeah.
And if this were, like, if you think something like Spyfall, if they're going to go that route, then he would say, okay, at the end of the season, the doctor is going to. Actually, I don't know, even because making a copy of the certificate would not like have the Blinovich effect. So I don't. Maybe he's going to go to. I really like. Actually, yeah, I don't know any solution you can have that fixes the paradox without like preventing the like actual paradoxical moment that we saw. So it's like that version, the second version of the certificate can never exist now, unless there's like multiple timelines crossing over with each other.
Yeah.
Which potentially season finale stuff if it's well written.
I guess to that end, I'm curious exactly how far back they had to go to grab Alan, because it almost feels like it would have had to have been they grabbed him somehow before he gave the certificate to her, because otherwise why would he have it unless he got a copy for himself to have and a copy for her? But it's the same thing, so it has to be before he's given it.
Did he have it with him when they kidnapped him?
Well, that's how they had it, I think. It's like that's how I assume they got it. Like maybe they already did have it, but it's like,
well, no, because the doctor points out that the one that the AI generator had or the L generator had
the same way,
was the one that was torn in while it was in Belinda's possession. So that's why I said it had to be after this episode from her perspective.
Yeah, so it's this is definitely one where, given this was RTD, he's kind of abusing the wibbly wobbly timey wimey thing a bit much.
And hopefully we actually get an explanation.
Yeah, so if we were to go back and I'm feeling free to talk about this since we had no news. Like if we were to go back in the history of paradoxes in Modern Who, we had Moffat who always liked to set up these loops that were like self-sustaining, kind of perfectly in sync, sort of in stasis. And RTD would usually be like, we have this weird paradox. It's held in place by Time Lord technology. And if you disrupt everything, a single thing, everyone forgets everything that happened. Oh, shit. I wonder if that's how they unblow up the Earth, assuming that's, we're led to believe the Earth was blown up at the end.
Yeah.
I wonder if they undo the paradox, meaning Belinda never remembers that the season ever happened.
No.
That would be a very classic RTD way to write the season.
Yeah.
And actually, it would be a very... Actually, Martha was the only one who remembered, wasn't she?
Oh, it was everyone on that like aircraft carrier thing.
Okay.
That unit thing.
Right, okay.
And like everyone else on Earth got rolled back except them, basically.
So we may be getting a Series 3 thing after all.
Well, I guess if Belinda forgets as well, that would be like Martha and Donna in one go.
Yeah. All right. So what I dislike about this episode is that it feels like I was originally thinking of saying this as my least favorite scene, but I think it fits better as like the whole episode, and I'll pick something else for my least favorite scene. But like it feels like there was a whole bunch of story that they needed to tell that they were just like, nah, we'll just flashback it all at once. It was almost like this should not have been the first episode, or at least the resolution of it, because you have all of this stuff, like the doctor's asking her questions, like, why did you end it with Alan? And I'm like, we haven't seen the answer to that yet. So that's not an oh yeah moment. That's a what the fuck are you talking about moment.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, it's like they just decide all of a sudden we're going to tell them and we're not going to show them anything. Like you were always belittling me. She was like, you were always
Yeah.
correcting me. All of this, and it's yes, he was a misogynist in his one scene.
Yeah.
And I was a little annoyed when I watched that scene because I was like, really, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say girls or women, whichever he said, are bad at math. You know that if they're watching as a family, the dad is either the dad or the mom is going to be like, yeah, that's true because that's how cultural stereotypes work. So the kids are going to be believing that because of that, even before they find out that Al's a bad guy. Where was I going with this? But yeah, that's the only scene that we get with them. We don't see what their relationship is like other than that moment. And apparently it goes on long enough that he proposes marriage to her. Granted, like for some more traditional people, like that could be 3 months after they met. But, it goes on long enough that happens. And there seems to be a lot happening in there that we should know about. But instead, we don't know about it until, like, not even when it's plot relevant, after it was plot relevant. Like, when the doctor is already asking her questions about it.
Yeah, like
it just seems like that was like it. Either they really chopped up the draft. They were like, "Fuck, we only have 8 episodes. We have to rearrange some things," or they were just like not able to figure out how to fit things together.
Yeah, this is a thing where if this was like a 2-part serial kind of Sarah Jane Adventures style where it's 2 half-hour episodes, you could basically do like first half is establishing part 1 is establishing who Belinda is, and then maybe the episode ends with either her getting captured or the time anomaly thing, and then ends on her arriving at the planet. And then the second part is just everything that goes on from there. Just so you can divvy it up.
Or even if it end with the introduction of the AI generator.
Yeah,
and I just realized I mixed up multiple things in my head. This is not poor planning. This is just lack of rest and my brain not working properly. Because in my head, this was the same complaint as something I haven't even mentioned yet. And that's probably why this specific thing was going to be my least favorite scene, and I was going to talk about the other thing, and then I realized they were too connected to talk about separately. And that is that. Kind of the end result of the episode is, for me, it doesn't seem like the internet agrees, and I'm really curious to think what you think. It feels really like Chibnallian in terms of the way the social commentary is handled. Like there are certain things that are just really like explicitly using modern terminology, like saying things like "Planet of the Incels." It's super, super obvious. It's no subtext, just text. And also the fact, kind of in that part of the same thing is I feel like for the average viewer, especially the younger viewers, right? The children watching with their parents, they're not going to understand what the miss issue has to do with everything else that's going on. Like, I feel almost like you need to have either had serious conversations with people about uh, the problems with labeling people based on their gender and marriage status, or have something the equivalent of, not necessarily an actual college class, but the equivalent of an intro to women's studies or feminist philosophy course, to really, like, in 30 minutes or 40 minutes understand all of the arguments that they're making here. Instead, I think the typical viewer, my impression is going to be confused and is going to feel like there's a lot of like kind of blunt commentary being thrown in there.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you feel about that.
I mean, the funny thing to me is what the like Planet of the Incels line reminded me of was, and it's not, it's not a direct thing, but it felt very much like the line. I mean, I got a chuckle out of it, but it made me think of the line from Rogue last season, where they're like, we're going to cosplay this entire planet kind of thing. Where it's like, one, that was the wrong term to use because they were LARPing, not cosplaying. But
right,
it's very like, just, yeah. Like, the funny thing is like, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say this is Chibnall-ish because, like, yeah, he probably would have the line, like, just directly calling Alan an incel, probably, but otherwise this would be set on Earth if that's what the thing was going to be, because a lot of the ones that were very direct were all set on Earth, like the Rosa episode and Demons of the
Orphan
Punjab,
55.
the Witch Finders, stuff like that, where it was very like on the nose, which, I'm a bit of it, like, somewhat of a defender of like that, because I was just happy to have like directly addressing stuff. Again, like, the mileage may vary on how well it was executed, and that's always up for debate. But yeah, it was like, and the funny thing is RTD's also been very direct with some of this commentary. Like, I don't get how anyone could not clue into, mind you, it's slow burn, but like something like Dot and Bubble is like, you can kind of catch on,
right,
and then what happens at the end happens, and it's like, oh, if you haven't caught it by then, you've caught. They make it blatantly stated what the thing is. So yeah, it's like, I think it's just, it does feel like an RTD way of doing it, but I think it's also just RTD taking the applying the Chibnall approach to himself in a way, I guess, if that makes sense. Of like, oh, we can be more direct about the political stuff and not have to like hide it, like bury it deep down and use all this subtext and shit. We can just be blatant about what we're doing. Sweet.
Yeah.
Which again, he is also both of them were big fans of the John Pertwee era. It's just that I always joke that RTD took more let's make everything actiony from that in his first run, and now it feels like the second time around he's like, ooh, let's do that, where we have very blunt political commentary.
Yeah, and it's I feel like even if there was like I feel like there should have been at least one more scene where we see like a conflict between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I think there should have been, maybe even in the same scene, like her, like some sort of reasoning why she doesn't like Miss, because that's part of why I feel like it's going to confuse a lot of people. It's like, unless this is a conversation you've had or read about or heard somebody talk about or, thought about in some capacity, it's going to feel like, oh, she just doesn't like the way the word Miss sounds. But it's like, there's so much, like, it's, there's the like gender-based titles, there's the infantilization of like, Miss because you're not married. There may be power dynamics because, she works in a job where high status people are not called by a gender title, they're called a doctor. Whereas she doesn't get a title like that because she has a lower status position. There's so much involved in there, and I don't think the episode even tries to engage. Like, it doesn't have to be spelled out like, oh, I do not like you calling me Miss, because of quoting a passage. I don't think that needs to happen, but I think it needs to be engaged with and not just kind of like crammed in at the end.
Yeah, like it could have even if they'd like had moments where I don't know, either she just brings him up and then it flashes back then, or just generally like cutting it intermittently cutting back to the flashback and like getting more of it as time goes on. But yeah, that would have also been like
I'm going to take a page out of your book and say they should have just made this episode 20 minutes longer. And that would have left plenty of space for all of my critiques.
Yeah, because then you could basically just have all the first half's on Earth, second half is on the planet named after her.
All right, let's go on to favorite scenes. I feel like I just took up a huge chunk of that conversation, but then again, we're still only an hour in, so we're not exactly behind. Alex, what was your favorite scene?
Ooh. Honestly, but once I realized what she was saying, because I didn't catch it the first time because of how quickly she says it. But once I realized what she was saying, it made me laugh very hard. When they're in the rebel base effectively, and the doctor is explaining all the time shenanigans, and he just hand waves it with timey-wimey, and she's like, timey-wimey? Am I 6? Like, that's just very funny. Of like, because like that's the first companion to have that reaction to that phrase. Everyone else is just like, okay, sure. And she's just like,
I feel like some parts of the fandom have been saying that for the past decade. So. All right, Aaron, favorite scene.
I'm actually gonna go with kind of one of the more shocking scenes that I've seen in the show in a while, and that's what's that's with Belinda confronting the doctor at the end of the episode. You know, she goes to him, she's like, "You scanned my DNA without without my permission. You know, you're promising all this stuff, and yet Sasha still died, you know?" Yeah, this isn't even Donna like level of antagonism where they're still kind of on friendly terms. This is an actual confrontation, and she doesn't see him necessarily as a good person. And the parallels she draws between the doctor and Alan are actually kind of freaky. Like, the first time I saw it, I thought she was just being kind of bitchy and stuff, but then at the same time I watched it, I'm like, oh shoot, she's been traumatized by this past boyfriend, and she's seeing red flags here all over with the doctor. So of course, this is actually kind of a scary moment for her, because now she just keeps attracting these men that aren't really paying attention to her needs or anything. They see her as an object, someone to or like a pet to like tote around with. So yeah, it really kind of makes you rethink the doctor and his intentions, and you know, are his human companions just pets, you know? Are, obviously, some of his incarnations have actually cared about his companions, obviously, Perry and Adric and everything. So I think those incarnations actually care, but like this one seems like I can see it kind of taking a darker turn, which would be really kind of interesting. Like, and he is at least acknowledging some of the stuff he does, but is he going to continue to acknowledge his mistakes? Is he going to turn on her? Is he going to try to do better for himself then? Or who knows? Like, we'll see in the upcoming episodes. But this is an interesting dynamic. It's a lot more antagonistic. She still trusts. You can tell she still trusts him a little bit. She has to. She has to for her survival, but it's uncomfortable. So.
To add to your point, I've seen this point made, and I was kind of like putting some of the points together in my head watching it as well. It's like Alan was like very obviously like this guy, has this certain view of women and, doesn't respect them. And it's like that's completely obvious in everything he does. The doctor, because he's doing the whole like, he always is trying to impress people. He never wants people to just like, have this like unfiltered opinion from him. He always is, smiling and, oh yeah, I have a plan. I'll fix it. I'll come up with, the huge smile he has on for the whole thing. He's basically like he's the one playing like, or at least especially if you're interpreting it from Belinda's perspective, not knowing the doctor, like he's acting like a pickup artist. He's acting like somebody who's trying to get on your good side, which he is trying to get on your good side, and that's a flaw of his.
Yeah.
I personally am starting to get tired of the like constantly relitigating. Yes, sometimes the doctor fails to save people, and it kind of like usually it just comes up as a whole bunch of angst, and like the doctor sulks for an episode or two, and then yells at himself. This time it's not the doctor sulking; it's somebody else yelling at him. But it like that part of the point, I was like, oh yes, he didn't save somebody, he didn't save a resistance leader from the enemy army that was shooting at them with lasers. He's not a god. And it's like, it's when he thinks he's a god that there's a serious problem.
That being said, it makes sense to have her be like, clearly you can't guarantee my safety because look what happened to her. By virtue of her having seen that, whereas a lot of companions, that discussion comes later because it's like, I'm not the first one to travel with you, am I? No. How many have you lost? And goes into that kind of a thing.
And actually, that's interesting, especially because we've seen in the trailers, next episode, they have that conversation of like, I promised I would keep you safe. You can't keep that promise. I can keep that promise. So that's clearly an ongoing conversation that's going to keep happening. All right. Wow. I just had and then forgot like 5 thoughts. But so since I've already talked about like the flashback stuff, I'm going to say that my other least favorite scene is the scene where Belinda turns the polishing bot back on. Because based on everything she's seen, the most logical thing to expect from these cat killing robots is that the robots are going to barge in, kill everybody except for her, and take her prisoner. But she is dead convinced that it's the way to save the rebels and to keep everyone else alive with no evidence. And I was like, that is not going to make me like this character or see her as rational or intelligent or companion material. That is going to make her seem as as if not more selfish than the Doctor.
I must have blocked out the fact that they shot a cat and killed it in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she was like, "What happens if I don't go with you?" and then a cat pops up and they kill the cat, and she's like, "You killed the cat. The cat is irrelevant. It wasn't my cat. The cat is still irrelevant."
Were we on least favorite? I think we were up to your favorite.
Fuck! Did I? Ah, shit!
Yeah,
see,
jumped ahead.
I'm just bad today. I am no good at all today. like I said, I had 5 thoughts that I thought of and then forgot in the span of that conversation. I'm just not at the top of my game.
To be
My
fair, we
favorite
did tangent.
scene. um, shit. Um, I don't. I don't know at the moment. It's not that I didn't like any scenes, and I'm pretty sure I thought of a favorite scene at one point, but it's not coming to mind, so I will pass for now.
Yep. So in terms of least favorite scenes for me,
I completely jumped the line. I went from last to first.
That's all right. Least favorite scenes for me, and this probably didn't occur to me like at the time, but then after reading something someone said, like a joke someone made about that this particular scene that I'm going to mention, I was like, oh, yeah, that's a bit weird that they play that for laughs. The doctor trying to get info from the receptionist and then shorting out the power to a hospital. I hope that no one was on life support, because unless they've got a backup generators, they're kind of fucked.
In my head, just because I know that at least most hospitals that I'm aware of have this, in my head, like as right after the camera cut away, the backup generator turned on. But there's no actual evidence in the episode that that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially because I assumed, like, I thought maybe, but then I'm realizing in hindsight, no. Belinda going through the fridge was at the place she lives at with some other people, with like her roommates and that. Whereas I thought for some reason I thought she was at the hospital.
The middle roommate was Ellen when he first showed up.
Yeah.
I was like, why does he not why is she still correcting him on her name after 17 years?
Yeah. So yeah, that was very especially the doctor being all smiles about it, like, whoops. It's like, mate, that's kind of serious that you've cut the power out. Like, someone might have been mid-surgery and suddenly, oh, power's out. Fuck.
Especially after this kind of incident is covered in all kinds of natural disasters and such, with hurricanes and flooding and whatnot. We hear all the time now about how hospitals have to move their patients or try to find backup generators to keep people on life support going.
Right.
Yeah.
So clearly it's not 100% even in industrialized countries to have backup generators. But yeah, when you said you were surprised they played it for laughs, I thought you were going with a different scene, but I won't mention it in case Aaron mentions it. So, what's your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene is going to be the cat killing scene, because it
the one you didn't notice.
The one I wrote it down and everything. I just spaced on it, just in the in the during the podcast. So
got you.
but
okay.
Yeah, it felt like a troll. Like, it was kind of weird because a lot of people online, they like cats. They're usually kind of left leaning liberal type stuff, and so you'll see a lot of kind of angry right wing people talking about, destroying cats and whatnot, or how much they prefer dogs over cats or something like that. So there was I had a weird political, maybe it's because I've been listening to way too many political podcasts too lately. Because I don't want to blink and
now that you say that, I'm realizing it might have been intentional.
Like,
And
oh
they don't,
shoot,
they don't
yeah,
specifically
Alan.
say words like conservative or liberal or leftist or right wing, but like it's
But
very
if
clearly
Alan's
Alan is God.
yeah, if Alan's supposed to be a presumably a leaning, incel type dude who, looks
Mm.
down on women or feels like he has a right to control women, then he's probably also going to have kind of negative feelings towards cats online because that's how what I've seen from like a lot of right leaning people.
Mm.
So, again, dogs versus cats and that type of stuff. So if Alan's controlling the robots, he's kind of a right leaning incel. Then of course he's going to sit there and shoot a cat and be like, "What? It's just a cat. It's just an animal. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's irrelevant." Which
Mm-hmm.
also makes him a
Mm.
bit of a psychopath,
Yeah.
which we see because he kills people too,
Yeah.
Yep.
which
Um.
is also incel behavior. We've seen how many
Mm.
mass shooters who are
Mm.
incels.
Yeah.
True.
Wow, geez, that all ties together now.
Mm.
Wow. It
Yeah.
is. It is almost definitely a political commentary. Like
Mm.
because at first I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is Doctor Who. It's like one of the more progressive sci-fi shows out there. Why are they killing a cat on scene and then just shrugging their shoulders about it?
Mm.
But it's not the creators. It's the character that they're writing for would totally do that.
Mm. I mean, I know.
Wow.
I
That
can definitely imagine RTD in an interview, like talking about his writing process and being like, "Well, how do we foreshadow that the bad guy is this misogynist, psychopathic prick? Well, we'll just throw a cat in the episode and kill it a moment later."
no, it's like that documentary Don't Fuck with Cats about the guy who was killing cats online and then wound up actually being a murderer.
Mm.
Hmm.
And that you guys should maybe you shouldn't watch that. It can be kind of traumatic.
Mm.
Um but it's a true crime thing that, it actually happened, so
Mm.
that's a whole nother thing, but I think that could tie into this too, so
Mm. I mean, the
Mhm.
the funny thing is, from my perspective, that when the cat dies, made me remember that like I've seen there be a criticism of the Chibnall era where he would give like very like one day away from retirement style backstories or something for like one off they're there for a scene and they exist to die characters, and
Mhm.
how like cruel it kind of is to like be like in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, there's like the aging security guard who's like on the phone with his family and then dies like seconds later or something like that. Or just generally giving you a reason to care so it hurts when we kill him off, kind of a thing. And I've seen that described as
That's why
being
we were so
very
surprised in Praxeus when the guy lived at the end.
um but yeah, like I can see it both ways. Was like that never bothered me, but then because it was like, well, at least the idea is to make people give a shit about these otherwise who gives a fuck characters that are just there to die. I get more the pushback to when Chibnall would do that, and like the one trait he would give them is this character's gay and then kills them off. That's very iffy. Um but yeah, like the killing the cat did feel very, that did we need that? Like that just seemed like, I could buy into what you guys are saying, but it also is very oddly like just what? What did like it was one of those things where that actually threw me off because I was like, holy crap, wouldn't have expected that. Like so suddenly and from robots and that. Whereas like it was like
Mm-hmm.
if it was like the Daleks or something, yeah, no duh. They're gonna kill anything that isn't a Dalek. So with these random robots, it's like they didn't really have a reason to, because the cat's not even trying to attack them. It just walks past. It like walks into frame, gets shot, and that's it.
On that cheerful note, final thought. Actually, before final thoughts, I'll say because I was hinting at this before, and I don't want to just tease it. The scene I thought you were talking about playing for laughs, and it was like, oh, Ellen's been turned into a sperm and an egg. Oh, Ellen's been cleaned up by a robot, so he will never exist anymore. He's dead, and just a complete
Yeah.
cheerful grin the whole time.
Yeah, like the doctor's like wheezing laughter at the. It was like, well, goodbye, Alan. Yeah, it is very like yeah, that's also very jarring for like he starts the episode, well, not starts, but like mourns the loss of Sasha 55, which like yeah, there's a whole thing there that I guarantee Big Finish are gonna try and do something with eventually.
Not beating the crying every episode allegations.
Yeah. But yeah, from that to like, huh, he's dead is very weird. And very, especially weird in New Who. In Classic, I could absolutely believe the Doctor would be like, well, that asshole's dead. That's funny. But Modern Who is so like, all life is sacred, this, that, the other. And it's like, they hammer it in. Every single Doctor has hammered that home. So for especially even this Doctor last series did that. So it's a bit weird that unless it's supposed to be like the Doctor having been alone for a while is more getting a bit more alien, and this is a bit of that. It's just coming out this way instead of the being really cruel way that it usually manifests. Like with 10 and 11.
But all the therapy he did with the one lady from the Christmas special.
Yeah, that. Oh, I remember you were going to say the therapy he did with Donna and the family, because that doesn't seem to have actually led to any sort of change.
I mean, I feel like
this is
I think the change is just that he's more emotionally open. Because I think that's their excuse for why Shooty has basically been crying every single episode, is he's more emotionally open rather than just closed off, which is what the Doctor usually is.
All right. Final thoughts.
I actually really like this one. Like, it's not perfect by any stretch, and as I like jokingly said when discussing this with some other people in a Discord server I'm in, it's like it's definitely a better opening to a season than Space Babies was, but the bar for that was pretty low anyway. And again, like, I didn't hate Space Babies, but it was just such a weird, well, that happened, choice of a season opener. Whereas this is like, okay, you've got me. I'm interested in seeing where this goes, what happens with Belinda. Hopefully she doesn't die, but depending on whether or not Disney renew the deal, she might be a one-off in terms of like season companion, and that's kind of what RTD did, really, for the most part. Like, Rose was his only 2-series companion. Like Martha and Donna only got 1 each. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that was always going to be the case, but it's one of those things of either it's going to be just kind of left to maybe she's sticking around no matter what happens. Maybe she's just going to be a one-off for this season. We'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely more interested than I was in seeing what's going to happen than I was like last season. This is easily a better opener.
All right, Aaron?
I'm interested to see where this relationship between Belinda and the Doctor go. Like I said, it's a lot more tense. They're in the middle of space. Like, what are they going to do if they have an actual all-out fight? Do they just, sit at opposite ends of the ship then? Or, yeah,
It
like,
is a big ship.
I don't think, or the TARDIS. Like, she goes sits
Yep.
in the library and, but, with the pool and everything. Um, but yeah, it's, I don't think it's an outright kidnapping like with the first Doctor, because he's, obviously not the crusty old man he used to be, but we'll see. Maybe he like starts to crack or something like that. Maybe he becomes kind of, I don't think he'd ever become like a villain or anything like that. This wouldn't be like a backdoor opening to like a season finale with was it the Valiard? He doesn't really exist anymore, but he was the main villain in Trial of the Time Lord, so
Right.
or some villainous type of doctor, which, good luck fighting
That's how
that.
the show finally ends. The Doctor truly becomes the master in all but name.
Yeah, or we find out that all the Time Lords are actually just by generations of the Doctor, and that's where they all actually come from. Yeah, but it'll be interesting. I also want to see what kind of Eternal they're dealing with this time. So it seems like next episode's going to look kind of like a Pennywise-ish type creature that they're encountering.
Yeah, could be.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess my first thought on this episode is that this is very much a like you look at different details when you're watching it the second time versus the first time. Um, like for example, I'm pretty sure I'm having trouble pulling up an image of it on YouTube, but I'm pretty sure the robot's ship is very like phallic shaped, which you don't really think of that watching it the first time. You're like, oh yeah, it's just a generic cartoonish rocket, and then you're like, oh yeah, there's symbolism in that. um, it's there's I'm very mixed on this episode. I really feel like there were some structural problems that really prevented me from liking it because it made me unsteady about the story itself. Um, so I'm kind of in limbo there, waiting to see like how the season pans out. But some things were good. Belinda did have a strong companion introduction, although I don't think she's really committed to the companion role at this point. So maybe next episode is really her companion introduction. But we get her as a character. Uh, this is an interesting scenario. Um, yeah, it's there's a timey wiminess to it that we need to kind of see how it pans out. We have things set up for the season. And yeah, we still don't know if we're going to see Ruby as anything other than the unit advisor. So yeah, at this point, a lot of open questions for the season. I'm cautiously optimistic, and we'll see how things go. Ratings.
Ooh. This is one where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like there's enough holding it back so it's not getting full marks, but I have so like ultimately little that like really bugs me that I think I can justify giving this a 4.5.
4.5 from Alex. How about you, Aaron?
I'm gonna go with 4.5.
So I
It
knew.
is better than Space
Okay.
Babies.
Okay. I knew while watching this episode that I was probably going to be the negative one. But I'm really feeling this as a 3.5.
That's fair.
So, nope. Okay. Nobody mad at me or threatening to kick me in the dick. So that's an improvement over other times I've been the negative one. So that averages us out to a 4.17 with two 4.5s and a 3.5. So if we go to our rankings, which I think I need to update the sheet for that. But as of our current standings, a 4.17 puts that between 167 and 182 out of 484 things. It is on par with Inferno, Legopolis, The Time Meddler, Gridlock, and The Church on Ruby Road. It is better than Army of Ghost Doomsday, The Mask of Mandragora, Nightmare of Eden, Meglos. Yeah, that's it for that group. And it is not as good as The Mind Robber, Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror, The Shakespeare Code, Destiny of the Daleks, Frontier in Space, Hellbent, or The Power of Kroll. So that is what we have to say about the Robot Revolution. Please let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've watched it. Don't forget to like the video if you've listened this far. Subscribe on YouTube to get our exports each week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we continue with the new series of Doctor Who with Lux, written by Russell T Davies and starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor and Varada Sethu as Belinda Chandra. We'll see you then.